Hi, everyone. I'm going to let more people join before Matt and I start going into our introductions. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Great. More people are joining. Yeah, let's do our introductions and then we can get started. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kate Navarro. I'm the Director of Admissions for our Master of Advanced Management program here at the Yale School of Management. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Matt.
Hi everyone, my name's Matthew Lasance. I'm the Assistant Director for Admissions. Excited to talk a little bit more about some of our app tips and talk a little bit more about how you can create your best application for this upcoming year.
Absolutely. And that's what Matt and I are here to do today is talk to you about our MAM program, but more specifically our application. If you haven't had a chance to watch one of our informational webinars about the Master of Advanced Management program, please go to our website and do so. We have lots of webinars there that give a general overview of what the program is, our 1 year post MBA degree here at the Yale School of Management. So Matt and I are going to focus a lot on our application because our first round deadline is coming up December 1st and our second round deadline just in January. So let's dive right into the application so we can give you our best tips and tricks so you can have a chance to present your best self. With that, I'll pass it over to Matt to get things started about talking about when you can apply. We have a few different application pathways.
Definitely. So, when is the right time to apply? I think this is always sort of the first question. I think a lot of people are thinking about, applying round one, two, do I apply, can I apply in round four and still get in? All of those things. But I think a lot of people are also wondering when is the best time to apply, applying before your MBA, during your MBA, can you apply down the line? So to kind of kick things off, maybe you're thinking about applying to an MBA program. We do have a couple partnerships. You would fill out your application while applying to the MBA. You would fill out both their application and ours, or if they pass some information to us, we'll send you an email and then you can fill out ours. But you would complete those applications and find out, if you've been admitted to both programs. And it really allows you to plan sort of the next 2 years of your life before you've even started either program, which is really neat. I think it really makes it convenient. It's a great opportunity for those who are thinking about their MBA. Maybe you're currently enrolled in an MBA program or a recent graduate, or maybe you graduated a few years ago. You can absolutely fill out the application while you're in or after you've completed your MBA and submit that to us. Depending on your school, you may want to submit in round one or versus rounds two, three, and four. You may be able to submit only in two, three, and four. We'll dive into that in a minute. But the great thing about all of this is either pathway is a great opportunity for you. All of them lead to Yale SOM at the end of the day, and that's the big thing. So, with that, let's talk a little bit about some of our timeline and what that looks like. So, we have 4 rounds this year. Some of you may have seen this already, some may not. We decided to add an even earlier round just to allow students to kind of get, things figured out before, well, I think the deadline is after you'll find out after the start of the new year, but to get your things submitted, be able to go into sort of that winter break time, and just be able to relax and hopefully not think too much about the application. But our round one deadline is coming up December 1st and it's open to applicants from Global Network for Advanced Management Partner Schools or GNAM Partner Schools exclusively. With that, rounds two, three, and four then open up to students from MBA schools all across the globe. And those rounds are going to start next year, January 12th, February 23rd, and March 30th. With all of this, keep in mind if you're looking at the 1+1 option or the M2M pathway, if you're thinking about some of those schools, maybe you haven't even started your MBA yet, keep in mind those deadlines might be slightly different. So you're going to want to check into those deadlines with your partner school. You can always reach out to us, of course. But these are the rounds we have for this upcoming year. One thing I really want to highlight with this is whether you apply in round one or round four, it's really dependent on your application. The benefit, I would say, to applying in round one is you're going to find out sooner what that decision is and be able to start planning, the next steps of this adventure and journey that you're on. But if you apply in round four, we absolutely have opportunities and seats available in that round. I know for a fact we had a student, I think 2 years ago, that applied in round four at the deadline, was sending us an email, making sure everything got in at like 11:58 p.m. And he was admitted, joined us here at Yale. So there's absolutely opportunities. Just keep in mind these deadlines as you're planning your application and planning your next steps. So, what we're going to talk about a little bit today, we're going to dive into each facet of the application. We really are trying to put together a fantastic class of students, and we want them to be well-rounded. I think that's something that, everybody wants. You want to have a great group of people that are well-rounded, some of the brightest and best from across the world. And a great candidate isn't going to stand out just because of one thing. They're going to stand out because of several different reasons. Of course, academic excellence, those transcripts, maybe a great test score does absolutely help, and shows that maybe you're really prepared for this program. But we're also looking for someone who really aligns with our mission, to educate leaders for business and society. We do want to see that as an integral part of your application. We're also looking at your resume, looking at the experience you've had, some of the leadership opportunities maybe you've had, or some of the potential you do have. We want to see those recommendation letters. We're going to be looking at video questions and essays, and we'll dive into each part of this a little bit deeper. But we really want to see a complete application. We want to see, each one of these at its best, and we really want to be able to understand why you want the program, how the program's going to help you, and then be able to go into an interview excited to interview you, talk a little bit more, and learn a little bit more about you. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Kate to kind of get things kicked off.
Great. Yes, we are going to dive into each component of the application that Matt just outlined. Before we do that, I just want to send or say a quickly reminder. Please ask your questions via the Q&A feature on Zoom. We'll be sure to answer those questions, Matt and I, at the end. And we do have some pre-submitted questions as well that we'll get to. So as we're going through each component, type those into the Q&A as you're thinking about them, and we'll make sure, we get those answered. Okay, let's dive right in. Starting with transcripts. So we are asking for transcripts from each degree granting institution. This means your undergraduate institution. If you transferred undergrads, that means both undergraduate transcripts. If you did a study abroad, that means that transcript as well. We need to see grades for each of the courses that you've taken at your institutions. This also includes your MBA degree or your MBA program grades as well, even if they're still in progress. A lot of our students or applicants who are applying just started their MBA programs maybe in September. And so they only have a few grades by the December 1st deadline. That's okay. Submit what you have at that time, and then outline the classes that you'll be taking and getting grades in at another time as well. Unofficial transcripts are acceptable at this time. However, if you are admitted and enrolled, we will ask for official transcripts from your degree granting institutions, and those will be sent to our background verification company that we work closely with. So, but at this time, while you're applying, unofficial transcripts are completely fine. Do make sure those are translated and notarized. If you are getting those translated, we do need to see all non-English transcripts in English. We are asking for you to provide both an English version and the original non-English version. When we're looking at transcripts, what our team is looking at is one, we're trying to gauge your potential for academic success in the MAM program and at Yale, which is very rigorous. All of our classes are. And so we want you to succeed in the classroom. So we're trying to gauge how were you successful previously? And that will help us then think about your future here at Yale. We are looking beyond GPA. We're not just looking at your overall GPA. We're also looking at your quant performance, how you performed in some of your courses, what courses you decided to take, and then the grades that you received in those courses. We're going to combine that with test scores, and both of them together are really going to be able to give us that evaluation of how not only you're going to survive the classroom, but also thrive there. That's what we want our students. We want you to be successful in our classroom. And so that's what we're looking at in those transcripts. For instance, maybe you didn't do so well in your undergraduate degree, but you're doing so much better in your MBA. That there's a great opportunity in our optional essay to talk a little bit more about that. Why maybe your undergraduate grades don't reflect how you're doing now in your MBA. And so it's all about telling a story. So don't get nervous if your GPA in your undergrad isn't great. Maybe you're doing better in your MBA. We're going to be looking at both of those things when we're looking at your transcripts. Okay, test scores. So we do require a GMAT or GRE test score. There are no waivers. We do not accept the executive assessment. It's a GMAT or GRE test score. We will accept the GMAT Focus, which is new, old GMAT test scores as well, things that are online during COVID, all of those, but you have to have a test score. Something not mentioned here is regarding an English test score, maybe a TOEFL or an IELTS test. Those are not required as part of the MAM application. We'll be using video questions to assess your English. So don't feel like you need to upload or provide your TOEFL or IELTS score. If you haven't taken an exam to enter your MBA program, the GMAT or GRE, there's still plenty of time to prepare and take the GMAT or GRE. If you're in your MBA, that preparation time is cut down, obviously, because you're busy taking your classes. But the test score is only one component of our application. We're looking at this, yes, as an opportunity to see how well how well you'll perform in the classroom and succeed with our curriculum. And it's just helping us understand your skills and abilities. But there are other ways to also look at that too. And so don't get too hung up on your test score if you don't feel like it's good enough, and so you don't feel like you should submit anyways. We're going to be looking at your application holistically. Last thing I'll say about test scores is please be sure to have your test scores sent to the GBS program at Yale SOM through the test scores website so that it can be sent to us. I'm going to hand it back to Matt, who's going to do a couple more components, and we'll switch back to me in a few minutes.
So let's talk about the resume. I think this is one that often can be overlooked. It's something we've all got a resume, I think, sitting in our folders, and it's easy to just upload that one. So make sure that you've gone through it, you've reviewed it, it's updated. And what we really want to see is, a snapshot of your professional career, maybe 1 to 2 page resume, a curated list that, is in chronological order and really allows us to kind of see what you've done throughout your career so far. Um, I think focus on achievements. Talk about, some of the value that you've added. The list of responsibilities. Okay, we really want to focus on those achievements, the value added, and you can certainly tell us a little bit of what you've done, but focus on the achievements and, where we can really get excited about some of the stuff that you've done. Make sure you include all of your work, and feel free to include, parenthetical descriptions. So if something, we don't know every company in the world. I think we all know, Amazon, BCG, some of those ones, but there are definitely a lot of family-oriented companies or smaller businesses that, we'd love to have a little bit more understanding of what they did and maybe how you helped them, whatever capacity that might have been. And it's absolutely okay to include some activities that are important to you, whether that be, maybe volunteering or things that you've done outside of the workplace. These are all great things that really kind of show that roundedness that we were talking about. Make sure, though, and we'll talk about this a little bit further, make sure that you can share with us a little bit of proof of employment. We are going to ask for that. Um, and really make sure that, any roles that are listed where proof of employment may not be there, or maybe, it's going to be a little bit fuzzy, make sure that you make it very clear to us. I know sometimes it happens where, let's say Kate works for Yale and I work for Kate. I didn't work for Yale. So make sure you make that type of thing clear to us that, I worked for Kate, and in whatever capacity it might have been. So let's talk a little bit more about work experience, or excuse me, proof of employment, the work experience proof of employment. So this is something that we really want to make sure we hit on. So obviously, you're sharing with us in your resume and in your application the different organizations that you've worked for. Make sure that you're not listing anything informal, unpaid, part-time. And if you do, make sure it's very clear to us, that it was that. Also, make sure that it can be verified by the company, whether that be via HR, via pay stubs, tax slips, something like that. We are going to go through this, and we do background verification. They're going to check into all of this, and it's really better that we know all this on the front end and we have all this information on the front end. That way, it doesn't come across as though you were misleading us or anything like that. Make sure, as I mentioned, don't include that work experience that you've done, or you can include work experience you've done for individuals. Just don't include it as, I worked for Yale or I did, such and such. You can put it in there, but put it in a separate section. Don't put it under the, work experience section per se. And again, proof of employment, we're looking for contracts, pay slips, letter from human resources, tax documents, things like that that are going to be, solid. And then when you go to the background verification stage, it's going to be easy to either have them reach out or you can send them those documents and everything will go through easy breezy. And I know Kate's going to talk a little bit more about recommendations. This is another important one to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. So we do require two recommendations as part of your MAM application. One is going to be coming from a professional source, and this is required. So ideally, this is going to come from a direct supervisor, someone who can really speak to your strengths and professional potential, as well as successful stories or successful projects that you've worked on. Titles are not as important as the person that you're choosing who knows you and knows you professionally and how you've done in that job. It's great if you can get a recommendation from the CEO, but if you didn't work with the CEO closely, that doesn't mean as much to us as maybe a direct supervisor or someone who actually saw your work and what you were doing. Some pieces of advice as you're thinking about who your professional recommender should be. It doesn't have to be from a current employer. It doesn't have to be even from your last employer. It can be from someone, again, who can really speak to you and knows you. So approach this recommender well in advance and make sure you give them some time to reflect, to think about how they know you, also some time to write the letter and submit the letter. Speak to them, maybe take them out to coffee, have a meeting with them, talk to them, and remind them, who you are, the stories, the success, the accomplishments you've done. If you feel like you need to kind of do that and kind of regenerate or talk about some of those things that you've succeeded with them. So also a great opportunity to tell them about your goals, your interests, why you're interested in the MAM program so that they can also help outline those in your recommendation letter. Remember, your recommenders are busy and they have a lot of priorities. So make sure you give them hard deadlines as to when that letter needs to be in and follow up with them to make sure that it's been submitted as well. If they are unable to meet those deadlines, always good to have a backup recommender also. So just think about that as well. The second recommendation letter is going to come from your dean or director of your MBA program. This is easier if you're currently in your MBA program. You probably know who your MBA director is or the person who's supposed to be recommending you to the MAM program. So go talk to them, put their name in our system, and they will get the letter back to us. Sometimes it's not actually your dean. Sometimes it's not even the MBA director. You likely know who that person is. Go to your MBA office and they'll be able to direct you. Or you can also write to us. We also know who most of our global network school contacts are and who should be writing that letter for you if you have any questions. If you are in the situation, as Matt was mentioning earlier, where you're still exploring MBA programs and you're thinking about taking one of the MBA programs where we have a 1+1, being able to spend 1 year at the MBA, 1 year at the MAM, applying early, you're not going to have a dean or director letter at that point of the application because you haven't started your MBA program. That's okay. For now, you can submit an academic recommendation, another professional recommendation. That's okay. You decide, but just a second letter for us. Lastly, if you've graduated from your MBA program, reach back out to your MBA program. What we're looking for in this letter is really just a sense of, were you a good student at your MBA school? And if they can, talk about some of the involvement activities that you did or any ways that you represented your MBA program. So final thought, two letters of recommendation, one professional. one dean or director, or academic if you are not started or if you have not started your MBA yet. Okay, essays. Essays are a really fun, I guess, component of the application. This is one of my favorites where we really get a chance to get to know you. So we're going to talk about all of our essays this year, which are new from last year. So our first essay is really trying to understand your purpose. We're also looking for self awareness, understanding your social impact, how you connect with our mission, how you connect with our program, and how you're going to combine your MBA and your MAM. This question is really about fit, motivation, and that's what we're assessing, how you're motivated, why you're motivated for the MAM program. Uh, the second piece is connecting with our mission, tying that in some personal way, how you align with our mission, how it aligns with your goals, why you're coming. It's great that Yale is such an amazing institution, and we know this. And if you want to come to Yale for its prestige, we understand that as well. But we ask that you don't put this in the essay as well. That might be a fact that isn't diving a little bit deeper for us to get to know really why you want this program, other than the amazing name that Yale does bring you, but rather how you fit into our community as well. So utilize this opportunity to connect the dots between your MBA, the MAM, and our mission. Essay number two, you have some choice with. So we have three essay prompts, and you are to choose one of those. Choose whichever one you want or whichever one speaks to you. But this second essay is really a way for us to understand something different about you and give us an understanding of who you are on a deeper level, connect with you personally. Use this essay to show your authentic self. We're looking for a glimpse as to who you are, what you're like as a community member, a classmate at Yale SOM. We are not looking for work stories. And so if data motivates you, that's fantastic. But don't tie that back to a work story. Explain to me how that actually motivates you. And so as Matt had mentioned, we can read your resume. We're going to see those great accomplishments. So use this to really connect personally. Essay number three is something different for us. Very short essay. I think you get, I think I remember it's 25 words, close to 50 words. We're asking, if you were an animal, what would you be and why? There's obviously no right answer to this. This is a fun one. So look at it as a fun way to reflect. And yeah, tell us something about yourself. Number four, we're going to go on to learning about your goals, right? This final essay is really getting us to understand tying the MBA and the MAM then to your future potential goals. So use this essay to talk about what you're passionate about, what you're hoping to gain from the program, how you see yourself getting there. Also, you can use it as an opportunity to talk a little bit about your past and how that ties into your future goals too. Maybe you're making a career switch. And so use this essay to really do that, to talk about those things. All of the essays are about, I think, 200 to 300 words each, so not too long. But we're using these as a committee to really evaluate your communication skills, your writing skills, how you really formulate an argument, a point. Do you get to the point? Do you answer the question? So it's always important to think of some basics, right? Read the question, make sure you answered it. Also, proofread, go back and spell check, make sure everything looks good, make sure everything, all the components are there, right? And you're happy with your essays before you submit. Another option is have a friend read your essays. Don't tell them the essay prompt. See if they can guess what it is, or vice versa, and just get their feedback to make sure you answered it. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Matt now, who's going to talk about our final components of our application before we move over to Q&A and give our final bits of advice.
So there is one other essay, and I don't even really want to call it an essay. I think it's more for optional information. It's kind of a quick note, I would say. And in this, maybe you need to clarify something, or maybe there's something that you want to clarify for us. As Kate mentioned, we're looking at transcripts, we're looking at test scores. Maybe you were sick the day of the test. Maybe your first semester of college didn't go as well as planned, and you failed a class, unfortunately. Or maybe there's a gap in your work because of something that happened at home. This is a great opportunity for you to give us a little bit more clarity on these types of items, something that you know we're going to notice or you know that we're going to see and may have questions about. And I think this is an important one because it's great to kind of get out in front of the story or, kind of I'm going to say control the narrative of it. If you explain it to us, we are going to have a lot fewer questions. We're going to be a lot less worried. But if we see, maybe that, there was some F's on your transcript, that's going to stand out to us. So this is a great opportunity to clarify any academic history, clarify, a gap in employment or whatever those types of things may be, or something that you believe we may notice and have questions about. It's a great opportunity for that. Please don't use this as an opportunity to, tell us how much you love Yale. Kate kind of mentioned it. This oftentimes, for some reason, gets misconstrued, and people use this to tell us how much they love Yale. Tell us a short story about, why they're passionate about whatever it may be. While we do appreciate that, it definitely is something that, we don't want to see. This is not what this is essay is meant for. Please make sure you use it for the correct reasons, but it's a great opportunity to really explain anything that you feel needs a little bit more explaining or that you'd like to add a little bit more context to for us. Now, I think the one that is the most fun for us, or one of the most fun ones for us, but often gets people a little bit nervous, is the video questions. So once you complete your application, you submit, you pay your fee. Usually within 24 to 48 hours after you've done that, you'll get a link to do video questions. There's going to be three questions that you'll answer. You'll answer them all in one sitting. There are no retakes on this, so keep that in mind. And it usually takes, I would say, 10 minutes maybe. But it's a great opportunity for you to, have a little bit of fun and, kind of showcase, who you are and give us that first look at, who you are, why you're excited about the program. We use this to kind of evaluate communication skills. There's really no prep required. I think a lot of people, they'll try to ask us what the questions are. I think some people kind of know from either applying in the past or whatever it may be. But this is a great opportunity for you to, show how authentic and genuine you are and really, tell us more about why you're interested in the program and showcase how you think and answer some fun questions at the same time. Um, Again, I think the biggest thing here is really be authentic. And one of the best tips I can give for this one, have a sheet of paper next to you, have a pen. And the way that I always kind of recommend doing this is treat it like an essay in grade school. I think, I don't know if everyone was taught this way, but 5 paragraphs, you have your intro, your conclusion, three body paragraphs. Start out with, how do you want to start the answer? What are the three main points that you want to hit on in your answer? And then how do you want to close it out? If you do that and just jot down some quick notes, it's going to allow you to kind of stay on track. But also, if you do stumble for a second, one, that's okay. We understand that you're human. Look over, figure out what point you were making, get back on track and finish strong. That's going to look really good to us. It's going to be something that, we understand you made a mistake, but you didn't panic, you didn't, rush through it. And one other thing I will say, take your time with this. When you're answering your questions, you don't need to, if you're trying to rush through the answer and you're talking maybe a bit fast, we may get lost very easily, but also you may be trying to give us just a bit too much information in that 60 to 90-second clip. Have fun with these, be authentic, have that pad and paper next to you, but really have some fun with these. These are a great opportunity for you. And then the final one, of course, is interviews. So if your application is submitted and we really enjoy it, we'll invite you to interview. And we invite people to interview throughout the review process. So just because you don't get an interview slot within the first week doesn't mean you're not getting an interview. Keep that in mind because I know we get a lot of messages throughout the review process about, I haven't heard anything yet. We're always reviewing applications and inviting people to interview. Usually, this will be about 2 to 3 weeks after the deadline is when we'll start reaching out about interviews. It'll be a 30-minute interview over Zoom, so you don't have to come to Yale in person. And we like to dig deeper into aspects of your application that maybe we had questions on or maybe we want to learn more about. This is something that, when we go to committee, we'll often, one, we have two readers that review the application at least. And in that process, maybe we do find something that we have a little bit more questions about, or maybe there was something interesting that we want to hear more about from you. Maybe there's that thing that you didn't cover in the optional information essay, and we want to ask a little bit more about it or how you've worked forward from it. This is a great opportunity to kind of talk about that. It's also a great opportunity to tell us more about yourself, why you want to be a part of the program. And again, be authentic, have fun with this. This is, an opportunity for us to get to know you a little bit better. As you can see, hopefully, Kate and I are pretty friendly, and we definitely enjoy the interview process, getting to know students. So this is a really, really great opportunity for you to showcase your best self. Um, and also get any questions answered by us. At the end of it, we always try to save a little bit of time in case you have any questions. So definitely come prepared with some questions. One other note I will say is dress for success. It is an interview for Yale. Make sure that you are dressing for success. This also applies to the video questions. I'm not saying that you need to show up in a, tuxedo or, full suit, but definitely make sure that, you are prepared for an interview with a Yale admissions member. I think that would be a really great note that oftentimes, sometimes people show up, and also make sure that your background is a little bit clean. I think sometimes, I don't know if people rush into it, but we've seen some interesting rooms where there is some clutter and there's a lot of things in the background and things going on. And it can sometimes be a little distracting, overwhelming, however you want to phrase it. So just make sure that you're in a nice, quiet spot where, you can have a successful interview, or you can feel like you're going to have a successful interview. And I think with that,
I think we're going to actually give our
jump to
final piece
Q&A.
of advice.
Oh,
Yes, before we go over to questions. So thank you, Matt, for walking through those components. And yeah, let's each give one piece of final advice for our candidates here before we answer all of their burning questions. Matt, I'll ask you, what is one piece of final advice you'd have for candidates?
it's a great question. I think one of the biggest ones is make sure you're planning ahead. I think the deadlines can sneak up, especially this year with the earlier round. They can definitely sneak up on you, and we really may not be able to move forward with your application if everything's not complete. Make sure you've reached out about those letter of recommendations. You've reached out and asked for transcripts, and you've submitted your test score. All of those things do take a little bit of time, so make sure that you are reaching out in advance. You're starting to work on those things and have everything submitted. And again, make sure you have a good understanding of what the program is, what it can offer you, and what you can really gain from it. I think those are that, first piece. And then, as you're going through it, you're going to want to make sure that you know when the deadline is so that you can submit your best application, I think. What about you, Kate? What's your piece of advice?
Um, good advice that you gave. So I like that. Let's see. I think my advice would just be, and I think we've touched on this a little bit, is really being authentic, being true to who you are. Show yourself in the application. Make sure you focus on what makes you unique. Who are you? Obviously we're building a cohort, but one of the great things about the MAM program is this cohort is full of unique individual people. And so that's what we're looking for, is for you to really shine in the application. So it's great to be prepared, obviously, and all of our candidates typically have, fantastic grades and great test scores, right? But those essays and video questions, that's where you can really shine. Connect all those dots, tell the story. Why does the MAM program make sense for you now? And really give us a sense of who you are, and where you hope to be. So be you, stay true to you. Okay. Well, hopefully that advice and all of our tips that we went through today were extremely helpful and you feel better prepared about submitting your best application. We want to thank everyone for joining us today. I also want to give a shout out to our colleague Elena Heath on the back end. Thank you for helping us make this happen, Elena. She's going to be posting our brochure also in the chat at some point. So in case you don't have it, you can download it. Please listen to our podcast. We spent a lot of time last year putting together this MAM Admissions Unplugged podcast, and we had so much fun creating it. The students were involved. It's a great way to kind of, dive into particular topics without hearing everything. So you can go and pick the one you want to listen to, the episode you want to listen to. They're really fun and great and informative. And then, secondly, join us for some upcoming events. We just had an MAM alumni panel. If you didn't get a chance to join us, you can watch the recording on our website. We're going to be having a Q&A next week. We're going to be doing a student panel webinar coming up in January. So we do monthly webinars, monthly Q&A sessions. Join us for those. Lastly, don't ever feel like you can't email us. Always email us at advanced.management@yale.edu. Matt, myself, Elena, Evelyn, we're all behind that email, and we'd be happy to answer any question that you have. If you don't feel comfortable asking a question today because it's a personal question, then email us and we'll answer you there. Okay, Matt, let's get into the Q&As or questions, and we will be answering to find out how we can help everyone.
So I saw one about proof of employment and documentation. So we don't need all four documents that I mentioned. Those are just four different examples of documents that can be submitted. If we do have questions, we may ask for additional documentation, but those four documents usually are pretty good for confirming, the confirming the employment, I should say.
Great. And on that same note, someone had also asked if a recommendation letter from an employer is sufficient as proof of employment. And no, it's not. While yes, it's supplemental if you have a recommendation letter from that employer, it's showing you worked there. But as part of our background verification, we're actually going to be reaching out not to your recommender for proof of employment, but your HR department for proof of employment. We will reach out to your recommender separately. So to the question, you need to have, as Matt had mentioned, one of those proof of employment, those four options, not just the recommendation letter, but something from the company that shows that they have you on record.
And with that, I do see another one that I think this can go across a couple things. They were asking more specifically about transcripts and if they needed to be translated. It we definitely would like to have a translated copy. We understand not every school will translate it. If you're able to give us a little bit of a translation, even that is very helpful. With that, employment and some of those pay stubs and things like that. If there is a translated copy of it, please make sure you submit both the original copy and then the translated copy. That way we can kind of see, and match things up a little bit. And that works both for employment as well as those transcripts. And I've seen it done. I will say this was helpful. If you're submitting, for a lot of different documentation, sometimes just adding a little bit of, I'm forgetting the term, but just basically the first two documents are going to be for company A. The next two documents are going to be for company B or something like that. It can be really helpful to our team as we, review through and we're trying to match up everything.
Almost like a cover letter. Or like, for each kind of employment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know what you mean, Matt. Just something to kind of separate it. So we're understanding which document is which. And those don't have to be translated. We'll do our best to translate those. Another question in regards to recommendations, we're kind of staying in this area, which is good. I love that everyone's asking very detailed questions. The recommendation letter must be sent via an official email, not personal email, such as Gmail. Is that correct? Will you contact the referrer after receiving the recommendation letter? So when you go into our application system, you are going to be typing in your recommender's email and information, and our system will generate and contact them for the letter. So they will get contacted by, I guess, our application system for the letter to be submitted. It does have to be with a professional email, not a personal email. So we can't accept personal emails. It has to be from a professional source. So does the email. Um, and then, as I had mentioned, as part of the verification process, later on, if admitted, we will be reaching out to your referral to confirm.
I'm seeing a question here about reapplicants and resubmitting everything. So we do ask that you resubmit the items. I believe, we'll have your test score if you applied in the past, but if you have a new test score, definitely make sure you send that over to us, especially if your test score is improved or anything like that. We do have a number of the items, some of those too. It should be easy to pull then if you have them from past years. One thing I do want to say with reapplicants, and this is just a general thing, make sure that you update your resume and your essays. I think that's really important. We've seen it, go both ways, and we've had people that just kind of submit the same application and are expecting a different result. And that's the definition of insanity. Uh, so make sure that, you've updated your goals. You've updated, what you've done in your career. Maybe those reasons for coming to the program have changed. Make sure you update those and you are giving us a new perspective on why you want the program, how you've improved, or what you've done over the last year, and showcase, why this is the year that you should be admitted. Any extra stuff that I might have missed with that, Kate, for reapplicants?
No, I think that's great, Matt. I think to your point, things happen to us every year. And so it's important to exactly showcase what's different from your application last year if it wasn't successful. That does include potentially recommendation letters, or a test score as asked. Someone had asked if I own a company, what information should I submit? A great question. Obviously, a lot of our students are entrepreneurs, start their own companies. And within the application, you're going to be able to provide some more information about the company that, your company, a description, a website, just to kind of show. So when it comes to proof of employment, we're looking for some sort of documentation to show that your company actually exists. So this might be registering it with the government, registering it with your country, registering it with the Better Business Bureau, depending on where you're at, right? Just registering it to show that it's legit. Having a website is helpful. Even just having a general understanding of what it is that you're working on. More information is better sometimes so that we're not left questioning, well, what is this? Is this legitimate? Matt, we did get a question pre-submitted asking if my undergraduate GPA is very low, what should I do to be successful within my MAM application?
Well, so even if your undergraduate GPA was a bit low, hopefully, since maybe you're applying to one of our pathways, maybe it's before you've started, I think really showcasing, maybe it was that first semester or first year, as I mentioned. And that's a great place in the optional information essay to kind of talk about that and say, hey, my grades that first term were not great. I struggled but they improved and I've continued to work on my time management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and kind of do it that way. If they weren't the best grades in the world across the board, is there a reason for that? Is it something that maybe it's just an hand up? I can say I had those moments where, you're in undergrad and there's a bunch of different opportunities, whether it's clubs or, internships or other things that you wanted to do, hanging with friends. You can be honest with us and say, you know what, I didn't use my time as well as I should have, and this is what happened, but I'm committed to improving it. Here's what I've done. Here's how I'm managing it. Again, that optional essay is a great spot to do that. If you've graduated and you're thinking about that, the other thing too is you can always, we're going to look at your, MBA school grades. So I'm not sure if this person has their MBA just yet, but maybe you have that. Highlight, hey, my MBA grades have improved even more. And, you can see that change or that improvement. If that's not the case, one thing too is make sure the rest of your application is strong. Make sure your test score then is stronger. I think that's another thing is you can balance out a little bit. Maybe your grades are a bit lower, but that test score, because you really worked hard to show, I'm committed to this. That's a great way to kind of offset that. And if the rest of your essay is really good and you've got that reasoning and everything else, that's a great way to kind of continue to be able to have the best chance to be admitted.
I think that's great advice, Matt. And we also understand our candidates are from, coming from all over the world. And maybe you just didn't have the opportunity to get good grades because you were busy taking care of your brothers and sisters. It just depends. And so to Matt's point, like that optional essay is where, or optional information is where you can share more information with us. There's only so many things we can read to understand. And so, like I said, the more details you provide and the less gaps that we have as committee members, the more you can tell that story, it's better.
One thing I will add to that, because I know that the follow-up question to that is going to be, well, what's the minimum test score that I have to get? There is no minimum test score. I think, again, the test score and the GPA are one or two components, depending on how you're asking, of this entire application. We are looking at a complete application. So just because you have, perfect grades, perfect test score doesn't guarantee you admission. Just because you don't have a perfect, test score and GPA doesn't mean that, oh, there's no chance you're going to be admitted. We are looking at the full application holistically. What I will say, like I said, if one is a little bit lower, it helps to have the other a little bit higher. And when we go to look at merit-based, scholarships, things like that, that is definitely something that, we do look at and we do see. So keep that in mind.
Very good. Someone's asking about the selection process and if it's on a rolling basis. And I think this kind of maybe couples with a question that was submitted about if I apply and find out, can I defer my admission? So I'm going to kind of combine maybe both. I think so in terms of we have, and Matt had already mentioned, we have 4 application deadlines. They're all structured. So we read within a certain amount of timeline and decisions are given by a certain date. If you go on our website for that particular round, you're going to know your decision for that round by that specific date. And so it's not necessarily on a rolling basis. It's really per round, but we may release decisions at different times within that round. That's why you're going to see a decision by date for a particular round. When it comes to thinking about applying, when to apply, and oh, maybe I want to defer for a year. You should not apply to the MAM until you're ready. If you know you're coming this next year, that's when you should apply. If you're thinking, I can't come for another year, you should wait to apply then. So you want to make sure you're applying in the year that you plan to enroll. We do offer or we do have deferral requests, but they are on a requested basis. They are not always granted. And so you shouldn't always bank on potentially getting in, deferring for a year, and coming the following year.
The
Great.
So I've seen a question here about kind of age. The person noticed that the average age is 32. They're a little bit older than that, it sounds like, and we're kind of curious. And so I think this is a great question. One, students choose the MAM for a variety of reasons. Sometimes, they want to go deeper into a particular topic. Sometimes they've, got some skills, but they want to, shore up a few other skill sets or a few other things. Maybe it's something that they wanted to explore a couple different topics. I know we have a number of people that are interested in entrepreneurship, and that's something that they've kind of chosen to go down that pathway a little bit and explore that. Um, that's more of the reason that people have chosen it. But that's all different ages. We have students that are in their, I believe, early to mid 20s, all the way up into, I think our oldest student this year is in their mid to late 40s. Kate might be able to correct me on that. But, so we have students, all across the board. And you're going to run into students that are even older than that sometimes. So just because, maybe you're a little bit older than that average age, it's an average age. That means that there are some people that are younger, some people are older. And I think oftentimes too, some of our older students are some of the best ones just because they've got so much experience and knowledge to bring to the classroom. They're really able to share all of that. And I think it's great both ways because the younger students who may have fresh ideas, know about some of the newest, technology and things like that, bring that to the table. And then you have someone who's experienced, who has that knowledge in that industry or, over the years, they bring that to the table. And you really get to see some really cool ideas percolate just because the two people are really talking and able to share and kind of dive down some rabbit holes, which is really, really neat. So don't let age, hold you back or anything like that. I think the biggest thing is figure out if this is the right program for you and then, go from there.
Great advice, Matt. I think we've answered all of our questions, both pre-submitted and submitted here today. If you have any other questions, we'll give it a minute in case you want to type it into the Q&A feature. But you can also, as I mentioned, email us at advanced.management@yale.edu, and we'd be happy to answer those questions for you directly. Um, our hope is that Matt and I were able to tell you more about the application. You can feel more comfortable with each component of the application. And you open that application and get started, whether that's for the round 1, 2, 3, 4. We're hoping to see it this year. So thank you so much all for joining us, Matt. I don't know if you have any final words, but thank you.
I think just really, take a minute to think about why you want to do this program and, what you've learned. Talk to some of our alumni, talk to some of our current students and admissions ambassadors. Do a little bit of research on the school, the mission, those sorts of things. If you've already written your essays, take a minute to honestly look at the essays, your application that you've completed so far. Think about what we've said today and have an honest reflection of, does this kind of fit all those things? You've still got, a week, 2 weeks to shore up anything that maybe a little bit, maybe you're unsure about, or maybe you've even got a little bit more time. But definitely do the research, and if it's not ready to submit in round one, that's completely okay. Remember, rounds 2, 3, and 4 open for a reason. We've got seats in every round. We have scholarship money for every round. Don't feel like you need to submit first just because. Any final pieces, Kate?
No, I think that was great advice, Matt. Is that there are spots available in every single round. There are no quotas in terms of how many students will take from a particular school or any particular area. All of it is very open, very fluid, and so yeah, we're looking forward to seeing your application. And thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Elena. Yeah, it was great seeing everyone.